So, Nigel, Mr. Farage, great to see you again. Happy New Year.
Thank
you. And congratulations, I also would like to say, with the new deal. Brexit is now a reality. You have fought for this for how long time? I don't know. How does it feel to live in freedom, Nigel?
Extraordinary. I mean, it was 1990. So it's a long time ago, 30 years ago, and we joined the exchange rate mechanism. We pegged sterling effectively against the Deutschmark. And I, at the time, was working in the commodity markets, copper, aluminium, buying and selling and moving goods all over the world, in all sorts of different currencies. Mm-hmm. And, I realized that actually the UK was in a different economic cycle to Germany. They much more a manufacturing country, we much more a services country. And I just thought this was the height of lunacy. And it was really the moment that I began to think, how is it that the entire British establishment has decided that our future is with this emerging European project? And then we saw Maastricht that hove into view. And there was a big rebellion in the British Conservative Party. But in the end, like good little boys, they all backed their prime minister. That was it. In 93, I said, you know what? I'm going to put myself up for election at the next general election. I don't care if I'm the only person that votes for me. I'm going to do this as a matter of principle. So I first put my name forward to stand and to campaign in 1993. So it's been 27 years. Mm-hmm. And I got elected to the European Parliament in 1999. And the truth is, this cause has totally taken over my life in every way. I've lived and breathed it 7 days a week.
And do you feel that now you have reached your goal, or how do you feel this?
Do you know something? No victory is ever perfect. There are always things with a victory that you'd rather were slightly better. There are elements of this deal to do with fishing in Northern Ireland that I would like to see, as the years go on, amended. Mm-hmm. But on the big picture, we have achieved the most astonishing political and constitutional triumph against what was the entirety of British media, the entirety of our employers' organizations, our trade unions, our political system. I mean, this was going to be the one thing that could never, ever be done. Mm-hmm. And I was considered the biggest joke, that's ever lived. I was the patron saint of lost causes. Oh, it's Nigel again. How boring.
Yeah.
But you know
that,
what?
yes.
You know what? In the end, we did it. And we did it because of a grassroots upwelling of people who said, we are not being represented. Of course, we have no antipathy to Europe, the continent, the place, the peoples. We love Europe. But we don't want to be governed by a bunch of unelected old men based in Brussels, making decisions that we can't change at general elections.
Exactly.
And if there's one point I want people to hoist on board, it's this. Once something becomes an EU law and then is put into place in all the member states, there is nothing you can do at a future general election to change that law. Right. Now, that is not living in democracy. So I woke up on New Year's Day with, I have to confess, a bit of a headache. I can't think why that was. And I had two feelings. One, thank goodness I put my head over the parapet and did this, because otherwise, frankly, it would not have happened. Mm-hmm. And secondly, an odd feeling, because once you've climbed the mountain, where do you go next?
Exactly.
So on a sort of personal level,
do you have a higher mountain to climb, Nigel, now? Or what's your pursuit for the future?
Well, I think that, as I thought, the European Union, the European Commission, Brussels, posed a tremendous threat to our freedoms, our liberties, our ability to reach out to the world and choose our own friends, and ultimately, economically, we'll do far better out of this. Mm-hmm. But I think another threat that now faces the free world, which is perhaps even more sinister and even more dangerous than anything that's been concocted in Brussels, and that is the rapidly growing power and spread of the Chinese Communist Party.
Right. And we will get into that.
Emphasize.
We'll get into that. But with your permission, I hope that you will take us just back in this beginning of the interview to the 90s and just tell us about the environment, this trip, this voyage that you've been on since you said in '94 and then up to New Year's Eve to 2021. How was it in the European Parliament in the 90s, in the zeros? How did you feel this develop from being, as you said, a joke? Somebody regarded UKIP and you as somebody to laugh at. And then suddenly today, I think they have stopped laughing. Could you just take us briefly, or as you feel like, on that trip?
Well, so in 1999, in the European elections, 3 of us were elected from UKIP. Myself and 2 guys who were both much older than me. I was just turned 35. And I had my own business. That didn't last long, because once you get into politics, nothing survives.
It's hard to.
But so 3 of us turned up in Brussels. We'd never been to the European Parliament before. We'd no idea what we were doing, where we were going. We had no staff, but we were very lucky in that some Danish Eurosceptics were very, very kind to us. Jens Peter Bonde was very, very kind to us. You know, he brought us into his group. He helped us. There was a Danish girl, Helle Hagenar, was our first sort of chief of staff. So without the Danes, we would have been completely high and dry when we first got.
Good to hear.
No, I mean, really, we would have. I mean, I didn't know what voting was, or a voting list was, or anything. So we were the complete new boys in there. And for the first 5 years, I think I was really finding my feet. I have to confess, coming into this as somebody who was not university educated, I'd gone straight into business. I had no experience really of public speaking, of media interviews, of any of this. So I was a complete political virgin. And I very much took a decision not to run before I could walk. So the first few years, actually, I was just finding my feet, finding my way. It was really from 2004, when 12 of us came back to the European Parliament. Suddenly, I was leading a force that was, a serious contingent,
a threat
within
to
the
Brussels,
Parliament.
maybe even that time.
And from 2004, I think my own confidence grew in terms of getting up in the chamber and doing things. And then a marvelous thing happened. Something was invented called YouTube. And suddenly, speeches that I was giving in the European Parliament, actions that I was taking in the European Parliament, none of which the BBC ever wanted to cover because it was too difficult, too awkward, against the narrative they supported. Suddenly, I'd be talking in the Parliament, the financial crisis, the Eurozone bailouts being one very good example. And suddenly, I would speak about the euro, its failings, the damage it was doing to Greece, Italy, etc.